Saturday night on the Get Baker YouTube live stream experience.
Come on.
I, Joe Joseph.
Do you know what? I can't find the bloody volume control. What the hell, man?
You feel good about yourselves. That's right.
Look,
Tonight is about love, peace, and harmony, folks. Love, peace, and harmony.
How have you fallen down into the corner again, dude?
I did that for you.
You're like a little postage stamp in the corner, man.
So how you doing, buddy?
I'm doing good.
Saturday night. It's our favorite, you know? Freaky Friday used to be my favorite, and then we started this. This is clearly my favorite. This and tomorrow night. But Saturday night has a special. It just has significance to me for some reason, and I can't figure out what it is, Hanger AT. It's okay. It's, one of those things that...
Oh, no,
Joe's not butthurt over. No, not at all.
Joe's in one of these moods then. How are you doing?
I'm doing okay.
You're in boisterous form this Saturday, Joe?
I wouldn't say boisterous. That might be a little robust, if you will. I'm thinking more along the lines of mentally incapacitated.
Spit it out, dude. Spit it out. Come on, man. We're all waiting. I can't get my lighting sorted here, man. What the hell's going on?
Mentally incapacitated in a very limited form. Yes.
What's happening, Scotty boy?
Doing fantastic. Another weekend is upon us, and I echo Joe's sentiment there. The something special about the weekend streams.
Isn't it, man? I'm telling you.
Whereas you get the audio visual, and you get us kind of unhinged and unscripted. Not that we're ever scripted, Renoff, but
it's like, oh, what? What are you scripted now? Ah, see, now you got the trolls out there doing that.
There's my notes for tonight. Look, Stranger Things. That's about it. That was my notes, man.
Kevin from Minnesota messaged me after the show last night.
All right, yeah.
Just so you know.
Oh, hang on, Ryan Gable in the chat room. You know.
Hey, Ryan, that's great. I'm glad to see him out there. Why is he out there?
I don't know. We'll need to get him back in here sometime soon, man.
Absolutely. I mean, how could we
How perfect would it have been last night when we were talking about Crowley, when, in my opinion, your man, Ryan, what he doesn't know about Crowley, you could write on the back of a stamp. And you look like a stamp. You're back down in the corner, Joe. You know?
I am not in the corner.
Postage stamp, Joe.
I am exactly where I'm supposed to be.
Lots of big news for us to get into today. But before we get there, I want to thank everyone for tuning in. For the first week in months, we've said it to public. I didn't realize we were on unlisted, guys. So all of these millions of people trying to find the stream, and now we know why. But yeah, we've got members in there. If your name's
wait a minute. Did you just say millions of people?
Yeah, didn't you know, Joe? There was like millions of people trying to find the stream. Me and Scott knew about it.
That's exactly right. And they're like, why, by gum? Why can't I find it?
Come on, hype up, man. So yeah, people in green in the chat room, they're members, and the members get their own crazy cool emojis, including my very favourite AOC. You get Popeye, you get Scottish Shrek, and we need more members. Not only does it go a long way to support yours truly here, but we get to unlock new emojis along the way. And that's always a funny moment. And if you want to support the stream, there's a PayPal link in the description. I really appreciate that. Or if you want to subscribe and help out myself and Google, you can use the super chat on the actual YouTube. So then, guys, and I'm glad to be coming to use here, because we often used to share a joke and a laugh about the big one, right? And then last night, I'm just about to get to bed after Freaky Friday. Phone goes off. CNN news alert. Usually I throw that one away. But then I see numbers in it. And I'm thinking, oh, that's usually an earthquake. Yeah, 7.1? Right. Guys, now, come on. What kind of constitutes the big one, though? I mean, have we met that, like, threshold of big one met?
I don't think so.
No?
I don't think we've seen the plateau, dude. I really don't. And judging by what, not only the USGS and academia is saying about these series of earthquakes. But in my mind, the true expert, my friends, Dutch Sense, also is basically saying, and tell me if I'm wrong, Scotty, but if we don't see these earthquakes start migrating westward or eastward, I'm sorry, right? East or west, I can't remember. But if they don't start moving, we're in big trouble, or at least they're in big trouble in Southern California.
Yeah, if we don't start seeing some of this energy transfer like out towards the Midwest and move east, east across the country here within the next few days, then we're gonna have to really kind of start worrying about an even higher magnitude earthquake striking, somewhere along the West Coast. And and Dutch said that if we don't see this energy transfer, like if we don't start seeing like 4s and 5s start occurring like in Oklahoma, he even said Kansas. So that's where I am. So if here within the next couple of days, if we don't start seeing like 4s and 5s happening, along the pumping operations in Oklahoma and in Kansas, if that doesn't happen, then he said to look for possibly a magnitude higher. So we're going to go from a 7 to an 8. Possibly.
Wow.
Possibly.
That's amazing. And as you go up on the Richter scale, it's not a like a linear type of increase.
No, it's like 100 times stronger.
It's really significant when you talk about the intensity, especially when you go like from a 7 to an 8. It's much different than if you go from a 3 to a 4. I
think the magnitudes, you might double check, Kev, but I want to say it's 1,000 times instead of 100.
It's something
I've seen. Go up in magnitude.
Yeah, that I've seen.
So like going from a 7 to an 8, I think is like 1,000 times.
But what's interesting about all this, guys, and this is again something that you're not privy to because it was in the discussion prior to going on the air here. Is Scotty, you have to understand that now he lives in Kansas, in Tornado Alley, and having to persevere tornadoes. If you're going to weigh a tornado versus an earthquake, it's almost like the fear factor and the intensity favors the earthquake, the tornado. Like it's more fearful and more intense. People fear tornadoes more than they fear earthquakes, because most of the time an earthquake just basically shakes the ground, and you don't normally get the ones that really, really destroy things. And if you do, it's rare that it hits population centers. Maybe you see it a handful of times a year where you have mass death associated with it. And in this case, it hit out in very, less populated area in Southern California, and certainly not Los Angeles or San Francisco or anything like that. And of course, Scotty's like, well, earthquakes, that pushy stuff, I go through these tornadoes. And but you're right. It's
I think they both pose, they both pose their dangers in their own way, right?
Sure.
So,
but you eat them up and spit them out. Come on, be honest.
Nana in the chat room says, "I'll take a tornado over an earthquake any day."
It depends, I guess it depends on the magnitude of the earthquake. Like,
yeah,
I don't know. Like, here's the question: would you rather be in a 9.0 earthquake or an F5 tornado?
Well, get this right. I don't know how right this is. Right, I don't know how right this is because it comes from my bosses at Google here. But it says here, how much more energy does a magnitude 7 earthquake have than a magnitude 6? Well, essentially, each successive magnitude is 33 times 33, interesting number, larger than the last. Now, that means that a magnitude 8.0 is 33 times stronger than a 7.0, but a 9.0 is 1,089 times more powerful than the 7. So it's
Okay. I think that's
I
where I
get it.
got
Yeah.
1,000.
I got
no,
it.
I thought that as well, Scott. To be honest with you, I thought it was hundreds or at least 1,000. Yeah.
Yeah.
But you know, the other
But-
day I was speaking to in text conversation with Nancy, and Nancy's in the chat room, but she was talking about, and I've seen a lot of people talking about the magnetic fields taking a pounding as well in the days prior to this. Now, I'm not saying it's connected, however, everything's connected in its own kind of weird and wonderful way, and I don't know how much effect that might have had on things. The Schumann resonance as well. You always hear about that going crazy too. So I don't know, really, the whole planet. You know, we're getting these earthquakes here, there, and everywhere, but the whole planet's going through a change right now, if you ask me.
Hey, and Lee in the chat makes a really good point too. He said, "I can see an F5 tornado coming. I can't see an earthquake coming."
He's got a very good point.
There's that too. You know, with a tornado, you can see the storm
Whoa.
coming. You can track it. With an earthquake, that just kind of happens.
We've got a new subscriber. Woo! You see, you get to see. Yeah, that's it. We need to just start doing crazy dances and things. There we go, man. Just a guy. Awesome. Now, Nancy was also saying to me, Scott, that, and I found this quite strange because usually the best natural indicator that something's going on with the planet is the animals, right? But nobody reported their animals doing anything weird in the hours or build up to this quake. Is that unheard of? Is that weird?
I wouldn't think so.
It may have happened, you know, but maybe
They usually, I
really
take it they pick up on like piezo electricity and things, right? The kind of discharges beforehand.
It happened in a very less populated area where you don't. I just don't think there was that much attention being paid. You know,
the epicenter wasn't even really located like along a major fault line like the San Andreas or anything. It was kind of more in an area where
old volcanoes were.
Yes, old volcanic activity used to be, and so you know, I don't know, the quote unquote officials over at the USGS said, well, you know, this was a fault area that hasn't really been documented or named, you know, like they didn't have like an actual official name for the fault area that this was on or something. It was a much smaller fault line or something weird like that. But
it's a lot of earthquakes there, boys.
That's why. But I'll be honest with you, that
is a huge swarm of earthquakes.
That's
dude.
a huge swarm. But not only that, because it's off the beaten path like that, it kind of tells you that there's a lot of intensity, a lot of pressure built up, and it's releasing in obscure areas. I mean, that to me is more confirmation that I at least in my humble opinion, that we haven't seen the last of this. I think that you're going to see much more, and if it starts to move the other way, further west, that's even more cause for concern. So yeah, I mean, it's certainly something to pay attention to, especially if you live in Southern California. Maybe it's time to execute that Lex Luthor real estate plan. Who knows? I'm just saying.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, you know, I really, you know, when Dutch Sense, you know, his analysis, I really take that to heart.
Could you imagine? Well, let me ask you guys this: what would you imagine waking up tomorrow morning and hearing the news that California sunk into the ocean?
Ooh, that'd be wild.
That'd be wild, dude. Yeah, that'd be wild.
I mean,
so there's
seriously.
where it was. There it was. It's pretty remote, eh?
Yeah, it's extremely remote.
Yeah.
That's why I'm saying, like with the animal thing, you can't really use that as a because
supposedly
it's just so out there.
Corporations and military do tests in that area.
Yeah.
So,
but I mean, it's very desert. It's extremely arid. So because it's arid, I don't think you have a lot of animal life out there. You know, I'm just saying, unless you got camels running out there. But that'd be the wrong area for that.
I'm sure the lizards were like
lizards. Yeah, that's where they hang out. That's where they dwell, dude. The lizard people. You didn't know that.
I was joking around with my brother yesterday and said, watch the rift is going to open in the ground out there, and the lizard people are going to come out of the ground and start.
You're gonna come out. Hollow
But
Earth.
Be careful. Don't mock the lizard people. Don't mock the lizard people. But I was just looking back at my messages there, and Nancy says that magnetic field thing, huge unrest and distortions like we have never seen. And I must admit, over on Twitter and on Facebook, there was a lot of people posting about that. And again, I'm not saying it's directly related, but much weirdness. Very, very strange.
Absolutely, a lot of weirdness.
Yep.
Ryan in the chat, Ryan Gable asked, wasn't there a military installation near there? And yes, I believe so. It's a lake, like an a dried up lake.
It's not China Lake or anything like that, but it's
It's
one
quite
of those
near
areas
China
where-
Lake, I think, Joe.
It is.
I
It
think it
is.
is.
It's south of China Lake.
There's China Lake acres, so Indian Wells. Yep.
It's just north.
Got an
east of
airstrip in there.
Lakes. Yeah, there's a like I said, the military has been out there. They do testing and
They
all
do
kinds.
testing out there, yeah, no doubt. It's probably a good area for training too, like Air Force training. In that you don't have a lot of people out there, so you can probably break the sound barrier, do dog fighting and all that kind of stuff to, what are those blacked out areas there, Kevin? Are those the actual earthquake areas themselves, or are those just blacked out?
What, those bits there?
Circles.
The circles are the areas themselves. That's the earthquakes themselves did.
Oh, I see. Okay.
That's the earthquake swarm in that whole area.
That's all
So-
over 4.5 in the past past 7 days.
Wow.
Over 4.5 is pretty significant.
Yeah. Yeah. But again, being in a remote region, it doesn't really affect
No,
the populated areas. And so you got to remember too, California, they're used to this kind of stuff. Their architecture is such that it can handle this stuff pretty well. At least from the standpoint of not dead on, but a glancing blow like this, the architecture there has been updated to the point where it can really handle that stuff.
I would look at this maybe as being like the perfect way, Joe, to kind of alleviate some of the pressure. They talk about a big one that's been building up. All right, it's not a big, huge one, but that's got to reset some of the kind of pressure that's building up.
You got to wonder how much though, because they've been saying it for years that it's a problem. At least the things that I've read about that area seismically, it's way overdue, and a lot of geologists in the area there talk extensively about the pressure buildup and how it poses a threat. And maybe we're seeing that now. I don't know.
Here's the question though.
Yeah.
Are we? This is what I always say. Are we seeing aftershocks or are we seeing foreshocks?
That's
the question. Yep.
So if these are foreshocks, then is the much bigger event still on the horizon?
It could very well
Or
be.
has the big event occurred, like say with the 7.1? It was that the big event, and then now we're just seeing aftershocks. Because remember, what was it a day before? There was the 6.4, right?
Right.
And 6.4.
That's nothing to scoff at, dude. That's a big earthquake.
Yeah, anything above a 5 is considered a significant earthquake.
Yeah.
And so by all accounts, a lot of people were like, hey, well, that was probably the main show in town. And then what happened? Day later, 7.1.
Mhm.
And so the question is, was that the main show, or are we still waiting for an even larger one to occur? So I think that's at the point where we're at right now. Are we dealing with aftershocks, or are we still dealing with foreshocks? And so
Still plays into
here's
my Project Bluebeam, Scott. There's gonna be something comes up from one of these cracks along an earthquake sometime soon, dude. It's gonna throw
Like I said,
everything into disarray, man.
Yes, like I said, the lizards are going to start pouring out of the crack, and
No, there'll just be a big crack, a big crevice, and we'll see the hollow deck. There'll be an ancient hollow deck down on the bottom of
Oh
the.
my! Here we
What?
go.
Whoa! Come on.
no.
So before we move on, then, Scotty, what's Dutch's main things to look out for that we watch for this traveling away, or?
So the main things to look out for here within the next few days is, here within the next 2 to 3 days is watch for any earthquake activity that might start spreading westward into the Midwest. So Oklahoma, Kansas, Texas, that whole thing. If we don't see any sort of activity moving farther west within the next, I would say 2 to 3 days, 3 to 4 days, something like that, then we're really going to have to start watching out for something much bigger to occur in California again, because the energy is kind of stuck in that area right now. That's what Dutch said. It hasn't, it's not spreading, so you're just seeing it's just constantly getting hammered in this one spot. That's why you're seeing all these this cluster of earthquakes occurring in this same area. So I think that's where we're at. We're just gonna have to see if the energy transfers farther west, and if it don't, well then we're gonna have to look out for something much bigger here.
You look at that there, though. I mean, look at all the numbers going up there. I mean, that's the amount of quakes that's hitting that one spot.
Yeah, that is a massive cluster of earthquakes, man. And so, I mean, that energy has to go somewhere.
Yep.
And if it's not spreading farther west, then it's just going to stay kind of trapped in that area until something causes until it releases somewhere. So, yeah, I mean, for all of you people located in California, especially I would say central, then down into Southern California, just have your earthquake plan in place, man, because this is pretty wild. I mean, we haven't seen significant earthquake activity like this in a long time in California, not since the 99 earthquake, I believe.
Yeah, that's insane. Look at it, man.
Yeah.
It's as if all the activity around here has just gone to this bit right here.
Yeah. And so, I don't know. And, Dutch even said, watch out for kind of areas around Yellowstone too, for any kind of, increased earthquake activity and all of that stuff. We just have to see if this transfers farther west or not.
See, that's the thing, man. Us people over here in the UK, we moan about the weather, shit like that. I mean, you guys have got like tornadoes, you've got hurricanes, you've got bloody earthquakes. You name it, you guys have got it going on over there, and we moan about the weather, the rain.
What's that?
Over here in the UK, we moan and we bitch, Joe, when it's like raining and things, and it always bloody rains, right? But it's just weather. You guys have got tornadoes, hurricanes, you got volcanoes, you've got earthquakes. What the hell, dude?
It's spread out though, so each area kind of has its own threat.
Come on, man. I was building the fear porn there. Come on, man. Come on.
But you know what I mean? It's kind of like pick your poison. So if you're one of those kind of people that, are concerned about that, well, then, in the United States, you get it all. Like, what do you want? Hurricanes? Well, then you go on the East Coast.
What's funny, though, is that, like, here in the Midwest, like in Kansas and Oklahoma and stuff, back in the day, it used to be like, well, yeah, we get tornadoes, but, at least we don't get earthquakes. And then all of a sudden, all the fracking quakes started hitting. So not only do we have tornadoes, now we're kind of starting to get in on that earthquake action. It was just a few years ago, they had like a 4.9 or something down in Oklahoma, and I felt it up here. We felt it up here in Topeka.
Holy moly, man.
Yeah, and
a lot of yours are shallow because of the fracking, nature of the fracking.
Yeah, and our buddy Ken Webb, he lived down in southeastern Kansas at the time, and he was much closer to the epicenter, and he said it felt like he said it almost felt like when he was in California again. It was that kind of shaking, and I was up all night. I was just about to go and lay down. It was early in the morning, and my microphone right here on my mic boom, I was sitting there and I noticed it was moving back and forth, my microphone. And I was like, why is my microphone moving around like that? And then I kind of sat still for a minute and I kind of felt the wobble, the wobble. And I was like, dude, did we just have an earthquake? And sure enough, looked on the USGS map and 4.9 in Oklahoma, and I was like, "Wow! I felt an earthquake. That was the first earthquake I ever felt. First and only earthquake I've ever felt." But hey, pretty crazy stuff.
That's it. Throwing it out to Ryan Gable. We're here every weekend, ain't we, guys? We can just beam Ryan in any weekend. All he has to do is just hit us on Skype, and poof, he'll be here, just like magic. Yeah, definitely. Well, I'm thinking, because he done a show recently on Parsons and all that stuff, and we tickled the side of Parsons last night. Well, we didn't literally tickle him. Probably would have enjoyed it, the creepy old git, but we were getting that way. So I think maybe we should have a right creepy one weekend very, 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 very soon.
Probably so. Yes. So the question then is, are we living in a simulated universe?
Oh, I think that, Joe.
All of this stuff that we experience, is it in fact a simulation? And so NBC has has this piece, and it says, if we're living in a simulation, then the cosmos that we're observing is just a tiny piece of the totality of physical existence. And absolutely.
No, not necessarily, because the cosmos in reality only exists in our head.
In our well, yeah, you're right.
Everything only exists in your head.
Mm-hmm.
Yep, because it's decoding wave forms, and then your brain turns that into an image. But in reality, it's just light. It's just photons. Yeah. So everything really exists in our mind.
Well, this says, what if everything around us, the people, the stars overhead, the ground beneath our feet, even our bodies and minds, were an elaborate illusion? What if our world were simply a hyper-realistic simulation, with all of us merely characters in some kind of sophisticated video game? This, of course, is a familiar concept from science fiction books and films, including the 1999 blockbuster movie The Matrix. But some physicists and philosophers say it's possible that we really do live in a simulation, even if it means casting aside what we know or think we know about the universe and our place in it. Quote, if we live in a simulation, then the cosmos that we're observing is just a tiny piece of the totality of physical existence, said Nick Bostrom, Oxford philosopher, in a 2003 paper that jump-started the conversation about what has come to be known as the simulation hypothesis. While the world we see is in some sense real, it's not located at the fundamental level of reality.
You think about it, though, before you go on, Joe, right? We see that kind of streaming effect from the Matrix, and they're able to look at the code and they're able to decode what's going on and think, that's no different than what we do. We're taking in how many bits of information every second of the day, and our brain is cherry-picking the bits that we need to render the reality in front of us that's important. But it's able to do that instantaneously in amongst all that other data and pick out the stuff we need. It's no different than what you see on that Matrix. So it's all information, it's all data. It's all just a field of data that we then decode.
Yeah. Now, Rizwan Virk, founder of Play Labs at MIT and author of the simulation hypothesis, is among those who take the simulation hypothesis seriously. Well, I would imagine so if he wrote a paper.
It'd be handy.
Yeah. Now, he recalls playing a virtual reality game so realistic that he forgot that he was in an empty room with a headset on. That led him to wonder, are we sure We're not embedded within a world created by beings more technologically savvy than ourselves. That question makes sense to Richard Terrell, Terrell, a computer scientist at NASA's Jet Propulsion Laboratory in Pasadena, California. Detailed as they are, today's best simulations don't involve artificial minds. But Terrell thinks the ability to model sentient beings could soon be within our grasp. We are within a generation of being those small g gods who created those universes.
I'd agree with that.
Mm-hmm. Now, not everyone's convinced. During a 2016 debate at the American Museum of Natural History in New York City, Harvard University physicist Lisa Randall said the odds that the simulation hypothesis is correct are effectively zero. For starters, there's no evidence that our world isn't the array of stars and galaxies that it appears to be. And she wonders why advanced beings would bother to simulate Homo sapiens. She says, why simulate us? I mean, there are so many things to be simulating, she says. I don't know why this higher species would want to bother with us. We spoke about it last night.
I would say that's the other dimensions. You know, we're one of many simulations.
Of course. But again, you know, we were talking about this last night. Why would higher beings come down here or create us down here? Why would they not kind of stick to their own level or try to attain a high level?
I think the problem with this lady.
Great to see you guys. Scotty, glad you're back. It took my chat Peep Solar. Support these dudes, good guys. Smoke 'em if ya goat 'em. Watch your
Wow,
for the blue
awesome,
chickens.
dude. Awesome, just a guy.
Chicken, brown
Awesome.
cow. Woo.
Wow. Wow, awesome.
Excellent.
Shannon,
Awesome.
I can't thank you enough, brother. Honestly, dude. Honestly. And a brown chicken, brown cow.
A brown chicken, brown cow, and it was like you gave him a
Dude.
discount. What was it, $49.99? Wow, dude, what a bargain.
See, and I love people long time for $5. You know? That's me.
I
I'm going to have to get
What does
married
that
to
get?
Shannon. Married? Gives you whatever you want.
Really? Wow.
No,
You're-
all
you're-
joking
you're-
aside, Shannon. All joking aside, you know, seriously. Because, I mean, the topics we talk about here, these streams don't get monetized. We were talking about this before the show. So, honestly, no words. On you go, Joe. No words, man.
Okay, so here we go. Echoes of Genesis.
Before you continue, Joe, I was going to say my critique or my sort of problem with her critique of this
Okay.
is, you know, she's like, well, you know, the stars and the planets and all of that, you know, well, they could all be part of the simulation as well. You know what I mean? So
The universe itself could, you know?
just looking at this at on a small level, like this is only being done on the planet and not looking at it kind of on a universal scale. And also, like, she's like, well, why would they simulate something like human, or, you know, why would they simulate us? Look, if you just
Why?
flip on,
Because
just
the Bible says that that God did. God created man in his own image.
yeah, and the thing is if you just flip a simulation on and let it go, you're not going to know what's going to arise out of that
No.
necessarily. You know what I
It's
mean? So
It's like The Sims, right?
Yep.
that's the whole point of running a simulation, is to see where it ends up. You know,
And not only that, but how do you create something really, truly? How do you create something of which you have no frame of reference for? Like,
yeah.
Kev, I want you to go out and create the color Karvik.
Mm.
What the hell's that?
Yeah.
I don't.
Yeah.
I mean, come on. It's like ridiculous.
So they're like, I want to run a universe simulation. Do you even have any idea of what is going to arise from that universe simulation?
Oh.
No, that's why you run the simulation, so you can see what the hell happens. You know, so yeah, that's my problem with her sort of critique of this. I think she's looking at it from a very narrow perspective.
Yeah,
So-
absolutely. And it continues. It says, yet there are familiar rings to the idea that there's a simulator or a creator who does care about us Similarly, the idea of a superior being forging a simulated universe parallels the notion of a deity creating the world. For example, the book of Genesis. Some thinkers, including Terrell, welcome the analogy to religion. If the simulation hypothesis is correct, he says, then there's a creator, an architect, someone who designed the world. It's an ancient idea recast in terms of mathematics and science rather than just faith. Go ahead, Scotty.
No. I was just gonna say I agree, and I've said this many times before. When on Freaky Friday and stuff. And anytime we've talked about the simulation theory, you don't have to separate simulation theory from religion. And like you said, science and religion they don't compete. They actually complement each other the more you look into it. And so, if you're coming at this from a Christian perspective, then everything kind of fits. It still fits. You have a creator. You have somebody had created the earth and the heavens.
Absolutely.
And there's some kind of intelligent design behind everything. There's some kind of a mathematical structure to everything. You look at the Fibonacci sequence, you look at fractals and all of that stuff. So there is order to the universe.
Oh, things are way too ordered to be random.
Yes, exactly.
It's just straight up,
And so I think you can be religious, you can have your faith, and you could still look at the simulation theory, and it all fits together. So
absolutely, I 110% agree with you, Scotty. And it continues. It says, but for other scholars, including University of Maryland physicist Sylvester Gates, the similarity between the simulation hypothesis and the religious belief should be taken as a warning that we're off track. And see, here's where you have scientists that in and of itself have created their own dogma.
Yes.
When they get like that, they're just as bad as the Bible thumpers that discount science.
Yes, exactly.
You know what I mean? And that's the problem. When you start to make it one or the other, that's where your tension and the divide comes in. But if it's the two can't work without each other, now all of a sudden those two worlds come together, and they come together harmoniously. And that's kind of what has to happen. And that is what is happening, because the more that these scientists dive into it and the more that they learn things by going into particle physics and getting down smaller and smaller and smaller and seeing the building blocks of everything, it ends up validating the idea of this being a created universe.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. And it says, who or what is the godlike entity that may have created a simulated universe? Well, one possibility is God. That's a good one. And it says, one possibility supporters of the simulation hypothesis say is that it's a race of advanced beings or space aliens, ooga booga. But even more mind-bending is the possibility is that it's our own descendants, our future selves, as Terrell puts it. That is, humans living hundreds or thousands of years in the future might develop the ability to simulate not only a world like ours, but the bodies and minds of people, beings within it. How crazy is that? And just as you can simulate anything else, you can simulate brains, Bostrom says. True, we don't yet have the technology to pull it off, but he says there's no conceptual barrier to it. And once we create brain simulations, sufficiently detailed and accurate, he says, it's possible that those simulations would generate conscious experiences.
Joe, how would you even know if you were in one of those, dude? How would you even know? I mean, we know the brain project and everything else they're doing to map the brain, all the neurons, all the pathways, all the spins of the quantum particles in there. Joe, how would you know? How would you know if you woke up, say, after a car crash or something? How would you know if you were being simulated or not? You just wouldn't, because everything, your sense of touch and smell, it would all be there. It would all be mimicked. You would still be decoding it. You would still be thinking you're sensing it. I mean, that's the level of detail we're getting to now, dude. And that mirror world thing
Absolutely.
we were talking about with the augmented reality into the virtual reality. I mean, indistinguishable from real life. That's literally what we're on the cusp of right now. And you've got these kind of the new NVIDIA graphics cards that are nothing special. They're,
You know
they're,
what's
they're,
you know what
but I mean, these things are nothing like quantum, Joe. But yet they're able to render fully functioning cityscapes, and
exactly.
you wouldn't know the difference, dude. You know?
So here's the thing, right? Everybody's acting like this is a big revelation, but dude, it's Genesis. This is what the Bible says. That's what it is. That's what it's saying. And everybody, here we are, Ange and I are like, duh, you know? And everybody else is like, wow, what an opsa. This is a brilliant hypothesis. Gosh, how come we didn't think of this sooner? Oh, golly. You know? It's like, where's everybody been for the past 6,000 years or so? That information's been around.
Well, I've got something else to throw into your simulation theory, then, Joe.
Okay.
And this is one of the more compelling pieces of evidence, I think. And during my time working with Anthony Patch, I know a lot of the people in the chat, they'll remember all of this. We used to talk about Shor's algorithm. And this was like the standard in cryptography. So we come over to this article here. It's a few years old, this now, but still very, very relevant. And it says how space and time could be a quantum error correcting code. So it goes on to talk about Shor's algorithm and how this was the standard in cryptography. And basically, Shor worked out that a quantum computer would be the only thing to be able to crack that. So they go over that in here, the qubits, blah, blah. But it's down here, it gets really interesting. It says, but in the dogged pursuit of these codes over the past quarter century, a funny thing happened in 2014 when physicists found evidence of a deep connection between quantum error correction and the nature of space, time, and gravity. Now, in Albert Einstein's general theory of relativity, gravity is defined as the fabric of space and time, or space-time, bending around massive objects, a ball tossed into the air along a straight line through space-time, which itself bends back towards Earth. But powerful as Einstein's theory is, physicists believe gravity must have a deeper quantum origin from which the semblance of a space-time fabric somehow emerges. Now, that year, 2014, 3 young quantum gravity researchers came to an astonishing realization. They were working in physicists' theoretical playground of choice, a toy universe called anti-de Sitter space that works like a hologram. Now, the bendy fabric of space-time in the interior of the universe is a projection that emerges from entangled quantum particles living in its outer boundary. Now, Ahmed Almiri, Ji Dong, and Daniel Harlow did calculations suggesting that this holographic emergence of space-time works just like a quantum error correcting code. They conjectured in the Journal of High Energy Physics that space, time itself, is a code in anti-de Sitter, and that's ADS universe at least. The paper has triggered a wave of activity in the quantum gravity community, and new quantum error correcting codes have been discovered that capture more properties of space-time. So John Preskill, a theoretical physicist at the University or California Institute of Technology, says quantum error correction explains how space-time achieves its intrinsic robustness, despite being woven out of fragile quantum stuff. We're not walking on eggshells to make sure we don't make the geometry fall apart, Preskill said. I think this connection with quantum error correction is the deepest explanation we have, and that's why that's the case. So I think that's quite interesting, Scott, that they actually, in the pursuit of quantum codes, they made this kind of connection to space, time, and gravity itself, i.e., like it is actually some kind of quantum error correcting code. Wow.
Very, very interesting. And it's also interesting how we always see the hologram pop up in all of this, right? And remember, we just covered a story where they were talking about, what was it, like the event horizon of a black hole, or the surface of a black hole, basically acting as like holographic information being stored, you know, in these black holes, and how it kind of scales up to the universe as a whole. And so, this all ties into it. It's information that's encoded. We're dealing with a universe that's just information. It's code and information. And I think we're really starting to kind of get to this point to where, we realize that this is what we're dealing with here. We're dealing with having to decode very complex information, about the universe. And
it's like the way I think about it, Scott, is we're trying to figure out a quantum problem with a classical mind.
Yes, exactly. And so now, since we're starting to think more quantum, a lot of stuff is starting to make a lot more sense now, and going back to Joe's point about science and religion competing, I have a quote here that I always reference because I think it's very important. It's a very powerful quote because it comes from Werner Heisenberg, the father of quantum physics, basically. And I think this is one of the most powerful quotes, ever, coming from someone, in the scientific community like that. And he said, "The first gulp from the glass of natural scientists will turn you into an atheist, but at the bottom of the glass, God is waiting for you." Yeah. So it shows that, these scientists, I think this is what he realized when you first get into science. You have that kind of dogmatic sort of mindset, right? Where I'm a scientist. I don't believe in God. I believe in, the what I see, and I have to see this, and, the facts and all of this stuff. But then, he's looking into quantum stuff, and as he started going farther and farther down that rabbit hole, and looking more at what he was really uncovering in the realm of quantum physics, he's like, holy crap, they don't compete. I'm starting to validate a lot of the stuff, the kind of spiritual stuff, and it's starting to explain a lot of things within that realm, and they're not competing at all. The science and, I guess you could say, religion or spirituality or whatever you want to call it, faith, they don't compete. So yeah, I like that quote from him. I always like to refer to that.
Me too. That's a very good one, my man. Very good one.
So yeah, I just think we're starting to understand a little bit. We're never going to fully understand the nature of reality and the universe. I don't think we're meant to figure it all out.
Oh, it's like asking an orangutan to put a 737 back together. You know what I mean? It's just, it'll pick up the pieces, it'll throw them about, and it'll make an idea of what some of them are, but it's never putting the damn thing back together, man.
Right.
No, we're never going to totally we're never going to totally figure it out. And but I think we're getting closer. I think we're starting to get a better grasp of what's going on. I mean, think about it. How far humanity, has excelled compared to the rest of, other life on this planet. We've traveled beyond the atmosphere. We've traveled into space. We have an understanding of, that of things outside of our planet.
Joe has been recalled from the simulation. There he is. He's back in the simulation, man.
Oh, my camera just crashed.
It's because you're using all that silly software. You see, I told you this would start happening, didn't I?
I don't like that at all.
I told you. I told you. Come on, folks. Hit share, hit like, leave a comment as well.
Please
Because
do. Please do.
engage the algorithm. Don't be scared of it, because that's what
Nope.
gets it. And once you engage it, that gets it noticed, and hopefully we'll get flying out there, recommended to people all around the world.
Fantastic.
And
That's
maybe, just maybe, Joe, in other worlds as well, because since we're talking about this, coolest experiment of the summer ties in with Stranger Things as well, because it's the Department of Energy. It's a crazy laboratory that Stranger Things is loosely kind of based on, and we spoke about it the other night, but still the coolest science experiment of the summer, especially with CERN being closed down. You've got this chick down here, I think her name's Leah Broussard, this one here, and she is going to be...
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, she's
Yep.
going to be firing a stream of neutrons at an impenetrable wall to see
Okay,
if she can open up. Like
why is it?
I've got this vision in my head, Joe. It's almost
Yes.
going to be like Stargate. You're going to get that kind of
Is it going to
ripply
be like
effect.
Stargate, or is it going to be more like Stranger Things?
I think it could be more like Dark, but you haven't seen that. A good show. Deals with time and multiverses and things like that. Yes.
Very interesting.
So this here, it says here.
Fire this stream of neutrons at a wall.
Yeah.
What are we doing? Destabilizing?
No, but it's to prove that neutrons, when they're breaking down into protons, are going into a mirror universe. All comes from an experiment they done years ago where they seen a discrepancy in the timing of the decay. And this makes them theorize that there's a mirror world where these particles go to and come back again. So it says at Oak Ridge National Lab in eastern Tennessee, where they based Stranger Things on, may I add again, physicist Leah Broussard is trying to open a portal to a parallel universe. She calls it an oscillation. That's no cool. Mirror World's far better. You can't call it the oscillation. That's no cool. That would lead her to a mirror matter. But the idea is fundamentally the same. In a series of experiments she plans to run at Oak Ridge this summer, Broussard will send a beam of subatomic particles down a 50-foot tunnel past a powerful magnet, in other words, it's accelerating, and into an impenetrable wall if the setup is just right, and if the universe cooperates, and if unicorns sleep with goats. Some of those particles will transform into mirror image versions of themselves, allowing them to tunnel right through the wall. And if that happens, Broussard will have uncovered the first evidence of a mirror world right alongside our own. It's pretty wacky, Broussard says of her mind-bending exploration. The mirror world, assuming it exists, would have its own laws of mirror physics and its own mirror history. Or would it be slightly changed where the Lusitania didn't have any part to play in World War I anymore? I'm just saying, you wouldn't find a mirror version of yourself there. And no, evil Spock with a goatee, sorry Star Trek fans, but current theory allows that you might find mirror atoms and mirror rocks, and maybe even mirror planets and stars. Collectively, they could form an entire shadow world, just as real as our own, but almost completely cut off from us. So that's pretty cool, I think. You get more portals into other dimensions, and you were talking about this last night, Joe, or another show. Why all this in fiction and kind of that kind of stuff, all the talk of dimensions?
And then here we are at that exact same time, running parallel experiments, mirroring the entertainment side of it. So, and to me, that's not a coincidence, right? But and I don't think that you have Department of Energy people that they may be consulting on script writing and things, but I want to be straight up with people. I think that there's a demonic component or some sort of component where this kind of stuff is being orchestrated. People are being led down these roads. There's a spiritual component to it. As much as you try to discount it, it is a integral part of the simulation, you know. Um, and there's a hierarchy to that as well. You know, when you start talking about um, these groups of interdimensional beings, there are different levels of them, just like there are different levels of society. And I think it's all part of managing that simulation. It's not, they're called the Watchers, and they're called the Watchers for a reason. You know, maybe you look at them like, you remember the old days, SysOps, system operators?
Yep.
Almost akin to that. That's kind of how I view them.
They're
System
watching the
administrators.
simulation. Yeah,
Mhm.
they're overlooking how the simulation is going.
Yeah.
You know,
So I'm telling you, Kev, not only am I thrilled that here again we see science more and more. Like this example is great about how science complements spirituality and vice versa in such a fashion that honestly, in my eyes, you can't refute it. You just can't. So, yeah, I'm tickled by all this.
Joe's feeling awfully tickled today. This is not the
am,
first time
very
you've
tickled.
been feeling tickled. Yes.
Yeah.
Is there a fine line between stoned and tickled, Joe? Or does one complement the other?
One complements the other. They don't compete.
It would appear so.
Well,
So where do we go now then, boys? Where do we go now? We've got that much stuff because we had stuff from yesterday. We've got like piles. Well, I've got piles of tabs open here. I've got the mysterious missing people. I've got.
Well, let's go to
well, here
let's-
I got
some more
this. Since we're
serious
talking,
news. Okay, go ahead.
well, you know, I haven't even really looked into this, but this kind of
but
caught my eye.
It complements what we were just talking about as
Yeah.
far as simulations are concerned. I think that's great. So go ahead, Scotty.
Yeah, so this is from Motherboard, and it says hackers hijacked VR chat rooms to manipulate users' reality. And you know, this is kind of interesting because I think this is something we're gonna have to pay attention to in the future, and especially as people
Makes a
start.
change from the mainstream media manipulating our reality, doesn't it?
Yeah. You know, so it says security researchers found critical vulnerabilities in 3 different virtual reality applications that would have allowed hackers to take control of victims' computers. It says by taking advantage of unknown vulnerabilities, hackers could have hacked into people's computers just by having them join a chat room in the popular virtual reality applications Steam VR and VR Chat. Security researchers Alex Rodesa and Philip Patterson found vulnerabilities in 3 different virtual reality platforms that would have allowed hackers to take over the target's computer, as the researchers explained in a talk at the Recon Hacking Conference in Montreal last week. The vulnerabilities were in VR Chat, the VR home feature of Valve's Steam VR, and High Fidelity, an open source platform for virtual reality. The researchers said that they reported the vulnerabilities to the VR developers, which fixed them, but these bugs show that VR developers have a lot of work to do to secure their users. When you get hacked in virtual reality, you can definitely feel that yourself, the hacker, has complete access to your senses.
That's not good.
Yeah, Patterson.
See, that's the problem, Scotty. So what happens when you're in Ready Player One world or whatever, and somebody hacks like your interface?
Yeah,
right? You know what I mean? That's got some super big implications to it.
Yeah, and what
think something like that could be fatal?
It's possible. I mean, look, say somebody is using virtual reality, right?
Right.
And maybe they have epileptic response to flashing colors.
Right.
Let's use that as an example. Now, they're probably using very mundane VR programs, like walking around, looking at scenery or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
What if a hacker was to do something nefarious and all of a sudden flash strobing lights through their VR headset?
Yeah.
Well, what that could have a fatal reaction. That could cause somebody to go into an epileptic seizure. You know what I mean? Um, so
Well, I mean, what a way to kill somebody off. I mean, if you think about it, it would open up a whole new avenue of like untraceable death almost. You know, all they just flash, boom, 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 flash a light.
I can't think of the name of it, but there's a lot of Japanese animation shows, Japanese animes that are really, really, really good at covering these kind of topics. And I can't remember the name of the show right now, but it basically covered this exact thing we're talking about, where people were going into this VR realm, this VR world, and you had these people that were hacking the users and killing them through VR. I want to say the show is called Dot Hack. Maybe somebody in the chat would know what I'm talking about, but yeah, I mean, this is a very, this kind of takes it to the next level. It's not like, oh, well, I got attacked by somebody who put a Trojan on my computer. Like I said, they could manipulate what you're seeing in VR. Or what if we're talking about somebody hacking augmented reality?
Right.
So if you're wearing your augmented reality glasses, or say you have your augmented reality contact lenses in, what if somebody was to hack into you and start projecting images or projecting things in your augmented reality that you don't know if it's really there or not, right? So say you wanted to make somebody paranoid or freak them out. You could put like an augmented reality stalker that always seems to be following them around. You know what I mean? That the person doesn't exist, but this person always sees the same like nefarious figure hanging out around every corner or in front of their house.
Wow, that's freaky.
Yeah, think about the gang stalking kind of aspect, or targeted individual sort of aspect to what you could do to somebody via virtual reality and augmented reality. So I think this is an interesting thing, and it's a very I think it's a thing that they really have to look at, like on how to secure people.
Mr. Mensa Mr. Mensa in the chat says Black Mirror had a similar theme. The Star Trek one. It doesn't ring a bell, but I know the latest season of Black Mirror, they done a really brilliant take on social media, and they had like the social media kind of guru, head of one of the biggest companies, i.e. it was the fictional take of Facebook, but that Black Mirror, it tackles a lot of the stuff that we talk about in a really, really brilliant way.
The only way I could think of securing it in any sort of fashion would be to make that connection almost blockchain-esque, to where you can't trace it, or you can't.
And also think about the blackmail aspect of this too.
Oh man!
So you see a lot of the sort of shady stuff that goes on in VR, right? With a lot of the more sexual activity, let's say. Yes. And if you had a hacker that was...
Did you do that on purpose so I had a good lead in? Because that was a softball and a half. I appreciate that.
You're welcome, Joe. But no, I mean, look, and so say a hacker was to exploit and have access to you, and record these VR sort of encounters that you've been having, and then they can hold that over your head and be like, hey, so there's so much to this that I think goes beyond, and then, like I said, I was telling Joe, Kev, while you were away, because Joe asked, is there a way that, a hacker could possibly kill somebody, Yeah. And I said, what if somebody's using VR and they're the kind of person that has epileptic seizures from flashing colors?
Yep.
Yeah, and somebody will never know.
somebody was to hack in and all of a sudden start putting some kind of strobe light or strobing colors through the VR headset, they could cause them to have an epileptic seizure.
I'm surprised
know?
more hackers haven't managed to get out. And this sounds terrible. It's not that I've spent a lot of time thinking about this or anything, right? But hackers and pacemakers.
Yeah.
I've always wondered, always thought to myself.
Remember Dick Cheney was real concerned about hackers hacking into his
and over here,
pacemaker?
Scott, we've had the NHS. They've had data breaches a good few times. We had that WannaCry bug going in there. We've had all the data breaches that they don't tell us about. I mean, I'm pretty convinced that they pay off hackers 9 times out of 10.
I would have to imagine.
I think so. And if they don't pay them off, they probably give them a job.
Right.
And so I think this is where the whole Bluebeam thing actually is going to come into effect. It's not going to be these holograms projected in the sky.
Right.
I think once everybody, like with these laser beams and
so more people get these augmented reality or VR headsets.
Yeah, you're essentially going to get these sort of tailored, hacked, augmented reality and VR experiences based on each person, right? So, we talk about Bluebeam doing the whole Return of Jesus situation, right? Well, if that person's not a Christian, then maybe they'll see Muhammad or whatever, or if they're Buddhist, they'll see Buddha.
As advertising is tailored to us, so would that experience.
Custom targeting based on that person, and of course they already have that person's data. They already have the psychological profile of that person, so they're able to target and project things to them that they would react to the most. So that's where you're seeing. I think that's where the real kind of Bluebeam aspect is going to come in.
There's that, and then there's even more sexual type of use for this, according to the Daily Star. Humans wearing teledildonic suits can now have sex with each other over the internet. That's right, my friends.
What?
Teledildonic suits.
That sounds like something you'd wear to go toe-to-toe with a pterodactyl.
Teledildonic. What the hell? That's a freaking... It's not a bad description. I got to tell you, it's kind of techie, teledildonic. Got it. Okay. Listen to this. The next generation of artificially intelligent cybernetic companions will bring about a Westworld style future where some people will actually choose robotic partners over real humans.
Oh, you know that's coming. You know it.
I think it's already here, of course. But as they get more real, and look at how fast this is happening now. I've never seen one of these robots up close and personal, but from what I've seen over the internet, the technology is advancing rapidly. And I'm not talking like Boston Dynamics. I'm talking about sex robots. It is just, more motorized and more realistic as the months go on. And it says here, engineers, experts, scientists, and philosophers gathered at the Free University of Brussels this week to discuss how we get from here to there and how we should deal with those huge, far-reaching changes. Daily Star Online recaps here the major talking points from the 4th International Conference on Love and Sex with Robots.
What?
Yes, Kev. You didn't realize that there was a 4th International
I didn't realize there was a
Conference
first one, let alone a 4th one.
I'm telling you. Now, Italian philosopher Maurizio Ballesteros.
Who thought the world of philosophy would come to this? Sitting musing over how we're going to adapt to life with sex robots.
I'm telling you, it's ridiculous, isn't it? But hey, I could think of worse things to talk about. And it says here that that he asked whether humans could ever love robots, and if they could, would the robot ever be said to love them back? He envisioned a future generation of sex robots that will look less and less robotic. He said robots will also start to imitate the physical appearance of humans in a more convincing manner and become even more humanoid. Their skin will be soft and endowed with numerous sensors that will make it sensitive to the touch, with a heating system to keep it at a natural temperature.
Unless you like them cold.
Unless you like them stone cold. Blah.
What? What?
Could you imagine? Yeah, I like my girls blue. Could you make it blue with like blue lips and
Getting ready to
about-
go out to work for the day, just pack Anne in the freezer so she's nice and chilled for me getting
Oh.
home.
What would they call it? The Savile special?
the Savile special? No,
Yeah.
no bueno.
I like
And it's
my
just that-
AOC just slightly warm to the touch, thank you.
Yeah. Well, it's a natural temperature, and their behavior will also become more realistic, and we can believe that they reciprocate our affection. They'll not only listen to us, but they'll be able to sustain a conversation and be responsive to our smiles. And at this point, many people may find it hard to resist their appeal. The robots would actually give everything and ask for nothing in exchange. For some, it could be ideal love.
And that's exactly what it's going to be. This might sound
Yes.
weird, but this machine,
No.
because never
It does
forget,
it all.
that's exactly what it is. It might have Botox lips and lovely eyes and big dangly
Yeah.
eyelashes and lovely cha-chas and great legs and all the rest of it. But it's a machine, and it's going to know everything
fulfilling
about you.
a need.
Yeah, and it knows everything that you want to hear. It knows
Right.
everything that you need to hear. It'll
Doesn't
start to
forget either,
learn.
Kev.
It'll start to learn all of your habits. It'll be that dream girlfriend. It'll be that absolutely dream experience. It would know everything from a lover's point of view in the
And they-
bedroom as well,
they-
and it's going to be the best thing, Scott. It's never going to answer you back. Never going to give you grief if you come home late, 1 pint too many. Oh, dudes are going to definitely go for this, and it won't be acting all woke.
And the bot will be fed all of your user data from your social media and
Yeah.
all of that stuff. So it has your psychological profile uploaded into it, so it knows exactly the right things to say to you, exactly the things that you're into, exactly the stuff that turns you on, gets you a little kinky or whatever. It knows everything about you, and so yeah, I mean, I guess they're right. I mean, whatever, it would be the
perfect girlfriend.
It's like a
That's right.
honey trap. See, if like an alphabet agency was going to send somebody in to do a job on you, it would be like this, because it would know everything about you. It would know exactly what buttons to press, and you would fall for it. And nothing wrong if you do, because it's designed to make you fall for it. So yeah, this is
This-
big trouble in Little China.
Yes, and then this goes back to what I was saying about the hackers and the blackmail and all of that good
Yeah.
stuff.
Yep.
Because if somebody was to gain access to your sex bot,
And
right?
you got to think it's probably easier than not.
Yes, exactly. And I'm sure these things are going to be connected to the internet because everything's going to be smart, right?
Well, that
it's
was
gonna
one thing,
have to-
speaking to Geordie, I was quite actually shocked at, Scott, because I said to him, the Sanctuary ones, and I mean, they're the ones that literally want to make it like Westworld. Although, if you watch Westworld, I mean, Suzanne Gilder, herself, the brains behind Sanctuary, she says she doesn't want the rapey, murdery part of that. And I understand that, and I think a better TV show to compare it to then would be Humans over here in the UK, because these are subservient, they do all the menial tasks. And the story I want to bring up is the guy gets one for the house, and it's the family in the house, Scott, and it's doing the housework, it does everything, it's perfect, breakfast ready, all the rest of it. And then when it gets to an evening, you can get your brown chicken, brown cow on, because you've got an adult code that you can insert to get some bow, chickie, bow,
Yes.
bow. So that's the way it's going to go, dude. That's the
Well,
way it's going to go.
And we have more. I want to continue because this is it's very, very interesting indeed.
Yeah.
He says that he actually went on to speculate whether once robots are perfect companions that never upset us, we will come to replace other humans in our emotional life altogether. Meanwhile, mathematician and scientist Rudolf Arnold focused on the human side of sex technology. teledildonics, the technology of connecting sex toys via the internet for remote erotic play, is to him an important part of mankind's interconnected future. He discussed PlayMe, a new device consisting of a tiny pneumatic anal probe connected to a pressure sensor and a bodysuit with integrated vibrators.
Unless it's attached to a Nordic, you can keep your anal probes to yourself, Mr. Joseph.
Well,
I
says the
know
device
it's
would
Pride
enable
Month and
people
all that, Joe, but come on, man. Come on, dude.
the device would enable people separated by geography or perhaps disability to share a sense of sexual experiences, he explained. When both partners are wearing the devices, a real-time exchange of emotion and corporeal feelings is possible. Leonard M. Gomes exhibited a similar touch-sensitive system called Touch You, which he said, in combination with actual sex robots explored, the concept of using the body as a remote sex interface. And finally, Eleanor Hancock discussed the emergence of a feminist movement against sex robots, Kathleen Richardson's campaign against sex robots. Hancock argued that radical feminists are wrong when they refuse to accept sex robots and sex technology.
You know why that is, right? Because it'll destroy their sex strike, Joe.
Oh,
You
yeah,
know?
of course. But it's a point also echoed by Alice Fox, who suggested that the spread of sex robot brothels may provide more help to sex workers and sex trafficking victims than any other strategy employed in the last 100 years. So do you guys think that sex robots could actually lead to a reduction in, because I don't.
I
Because
don't.
think
Behind the
whole
scenes,
sex
yeah.
state is
I mean, it's all black
centered around
market anyway.
pedophilia.
Yeah, it's black market anyway, right? So I mean, it's not as
Yeah.
if. Nah, I don't think it will. And I think people that have this idea of if they're able to take out their wildest and sickest and craziest fantasies on a robot, that's a good thing, because then they won't go on to express that in the real world, and people will be safer. Bullshit, because I think people will get a taste for it, and they'll want to take it further. You always want to go further, and I don't agree with that kind of level of thinking on this at all. But hey, listen, if somebody finds romance and love and companionship with a sex robot, and they're not harming me, and they're not flaunting it in my face, and they're not telling my young kid that this is the way to be, then who the hell am I to argue with anyone? Hey, we've all got our kinks. Who knows?
Yeah, and I guess we always have to look at, I guess, some of the benefits to this, right? And talking about those suits and stuff, I think like Joe was saying in that article there, people with disabilities or something like that, maybe
Yeah, it could certainly benefit them, I would imagine, right?
them, help reduce maybe some of the depression that some of these people have because they
I
feel
think you just like it for the anal probe. That's what it is, Scotty. Be honest.
I think a lot of people might not even explore the sexual aspect of this. You might just get that
No, just a
companionship.
companion
Yeah, you might get that actual genuine companionship,
or an anal probe.
or that's always an option. We're not taking that off the table.
So I think maybe the human to I guess the human to human connection side of it over the internet is a little more, you can swallow that a little bit better than the just straight robot. Yeah.
Boom, boom.
Did you go there?
That does all tie into as well. We've spoke about the dwindling birth rates before and things. And, I honestly think it's maybe 1 or 2 generations away before people go, ugh, what do you mean men and women used to kiss? Are you kidding me on?
Demolition Man, remember? Yeah, that was a big thing. And you wonder how visionary that movie was. But guys, if you're not into robots, there still are events out there to help stimulate your and satisfy your sexual deviancy. And that, my friends, can be found in England, where the Sun says the king of swingers. Hundreds of swingers descend on quiet Worcester Village for Europe's biggest sex festival. That's
Bring
right.
Philadelphonic suits.
Now
That's
we
right.
know. Now we know why the earth is shaking, boys. Now we
Shed
know.
Dildonic suits because hundreds of swingers have descended upon Worcestershire village for the Europe's biggest sex festival. Festival goers have
What
splashed out
did you
up to
just call that?
450
Worcestershire. Did you just call it that?
Worcestershire.
Brilliant. I'll do.
Now, up to 415 pounds for a 3-day pass to Swingsfield. Jesus Christ. Which this year is being held on farmland near the hamlet of Upper Welland, 2 miles from Malvern. Now, Swingfields Festival started 6 years ago and has been running annually since.
God,
It was also held in Malvern last year. When they arrive, revelers are handed a color-coded wristband showing other guests what they're looking for. The Swingfields website has a glossary of terms for swingers, including hot wife, full swap, and/or soft swap. Hot wives are wives who enjoy casual sex with other men. Bulls are well-endowed men, married or single, looking for sex, while unicorns are so called because they are single women and so rare in the swinging scene that few people have ever seen one.
where do you get this stuff, dude?
But wait, there's more. A full swap is where a couple swaps partners for sex, while a soft swap is where a husband or a wife has oral sex with someone else's partner. Meanwhile, same room is where couples have sex in front of each other. Guests are encouraged to be fun and social and told, if you sit and wait, then little will happen. Around 700 festival goers are expected to attend the Sex Fest. They're allowed to go natural, but are encouraged to remain covered from the waist down in the festival's main area out of respect for the catering staff.
Because of the amount of sex pests that are roaming around.
Now, you got to imagine, right? First of all,
Can you imagine being the guy that like
it's a bunch of old ladies and prune tits, probably a lot of that, right? So you got that going on. And then you got guys with their balls hanging down to their knees. So, I'm sure that the majority of people that are going there simply because
can you imagine being the poor bastard that has to work for the catering company?
Oh,
And you get assigned to go there and yeah.
It's not all fun and games. I remember the first time I went over to Europe in the military, and I was so giddy because they had nude beaches, and over in the States we didn't have any, and it was just like, oh my God, we're going to the nude beach. Yeah. And we got there, and boy, oh boy, was that a disappointment. A big disappointment. Boy, oh, you don't want to go to a nude beach. Not that one.
No.
Generally, the people who want to be nude are not the people that you want to
be nude. Yeah.
Boy, oh boy, no, it is not.
But what's happening, right? I mean, you've got that whole swinger thing, and I get it. People get their rocks off various ways. I'm not knocking it. But
no, I'm not either.
But listen, there's something far wrong because this is a story that I wanted to bring up tonight. And this is the story of the Instagram girl who is managing to find people that will spend $30 a pop on
For
her
what?
used bath water.
How much used bathwater?
A little cup of it that size.
And what do they do with said bathwater?
She does, in all fairness, she does put on that it's not for drinking purposes. It's merely ornamental.
But I mean, like, what do they do with it after? So here you have this cup of bathwater.
Yes.
Then what?
Well, the world's your oyster. Who knows? If you're sick enough,
I kind of wonder,
if
like,
you're sick enough to be forking out for bathwater of a
did they
chick.
have anybody that bought it? Did they interview anybody?
Dude, there's been people have actually, like, their girlfriends have dumped them and shit because they found out that their man was buying bathwater of basically, I mean, let's call it for what it is. She's basically a call girl on Instagram because for enough money you can like get private Snapchats every month, and she doesn't tell you exactly what she's going to do in the private Snapchat, but she doesn't tell you what she's not going to do either. So it says here, Instagram cosplay model Belle Delphine, has thought up an inventive way to earn some cash on the side. Selling used gamer girl bathwater, Delphine, real name Belle Kirshner, has advertised the unusual product on her Instagram account along with launching it on her official store. The bathwater is selling for a whopping $30 per jar, with Delphine even poking fun at the product in a comment beneath her Instagram post advertising it. This is what generation you guys are in, she wrote, where girls sell their own bathwater. Just let that sink in. Wow. Wow.
Are they drinking it?
Yeah, well, I don't know if they're drinking it, okay? I mean, it doesn't say that, but it says Delphine, who has a sizable following of over 3.8 million Instagram followers, previously courted controversy by setting up a fake Pornhub account. After telling her fans that she would create a Pornhub account if one of her photos received 1 million likes, she celebrated hitting that milestone by posting a series of misleading videos on the pornography site. One site's video titled "PewDiePie Goes All the Way Inside Belle Delphine" saw her eating a photo of the Swedish YouTuber. So, I know, dude. I know.
Ugh. We'll have to continue this conversation tomorrow night.
We will, but yeah. Bathwater. We've kind of regressed.
Because I can't take it anymore. If people are drinking or even humping a bathwater cup or whatever it is, it's awful.
Even if they're sitting
Well, probably dunking their pecker in it. It touched your punani. Oh, yeah, humping the cup.
I don't get it.
When Kev told me about this story yesterday, I said, "How do you even know it's bathwater?" I bet she filled. I bet she filled that stuff up out of the water hose in her backyard, and she's like, "Look at all these suckers! Look at all these suckers that think that they're getting bathwater from me, you know." Or she's having it bottled by some company somewhere, and
but even worse is some of these guys got dumped by a woman with a real vagina, and so they had access to a real vagina, but would rather hump a cup of bathwater from.
But isn't that the way it is now, though? I mean, how many relationships have been split up because of social media and things like that?
No, damn, dude. I mean,
I know, man.
But you gotta give it to her for the marketing, right?
Oh, yeah.
She even straight up said, "Look, this is the point we're at right now in this generation, to where
she's taking advantage of it. Good for her.
And where you suckers are gonna buy my bathwater."
Hey, I'm not knocking her, Scott. I'm more thinking about the people that bought it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yep.
I'm saying so. I mean, she's just playing on a market that she knows is there that she can tap into, and she knows that she's got a lot of suckers that'll actually do it. So, I mean, in a way, I guess you got to give her kudos. You got to give her props.
No doubt.
For doing that, because
well, if anyone wants to buy me a bottle of Eau de AOC for Christmas, then
I don't know.
Don't know about that. Maybe she'll give me. Maybe I'll get some detention water out of the toilets.
Is it some of that toilet water she was talking about? Is that the AOC special?
Yeah. And I mean, Nancy's right. Good for her. She's the one making the money. Absolutely. Yep.
Like I said, if there's suckers out there that are willing to shell out $30 for a jar of water, then
well.
Exactly. I mean, imagine you find somebody willing to pay 50 quid for your old socks. On you go then. I have lots of old socks. Damn tootin', man. 3.8 million followers, eh?
Yeah. Unbelievable.
So then, tomorrow night, boys. Tomorrow night, have we got any? Yes, have we got any topics in mind?
Yes, actually.
Oh, we do.
Maybe.
All right.
How about let's see here. Archaeologists recover 47 ingots of auric alcum.
We'll go ancient tomorrow then.
The mystical ore of Atlantis.
We'll go Atlantis tomorrow. Ancient E. Yeah.
So
Yeah,
there
that
you
sounds
go.
good. So, folks, we'll be back same time, same place tomorrow. Big thank you to everyone for being here. If you want to support the stream, there's a PayPal link in the description. You can hit the super chat tomorrow. Thanks for the super chats tonight. Just a guy, awesome. All the
Just a
new
guy,
members as well. All the current members. And yeah, we'll be back tomorrow, same time, same place. We'll try. We'll try not to gross people out with bathwater stories. However, I think it is important to highlight just how far some people have fallen.
Mhm.
I never thought I'd see the
Absolutely.
day, guys, with $30 for bathwater. Wow.
Good
Not
night,
good.
everybody.
Yeah.
Thank you for tuning in.